Okay, guys, this is our writing lesson. We're still working on our persuasive essays. I have seen yours, and you guys are doing fantastic. You coming up with some really good persuasive arguments for and against something, or you want to do this, you want to do that. Really nice job. Remember that you're trying to convince someone of your opinion. So you're only going to put out your best and most convincing evidence. When you did your boxes and bullets, your brainstorming ideas, remember, that's what you're trying to do is put out your best and most convincing parts of your evidence, your pieces, your boxes, and then your supporting evidence, your bullets. And so one way you can do that is to read each piece, each of your um, paragraphs, like I just highlighted there. Make sure that you read each piece and then go back and ask yourself, will this make my audience care? Will this make Mr. Sims care about what I want to try to get across? Okay. So that's what you need to do with each one of your little paragraphs. You have a paragraph here, you have a paragraph there, and you're only going to make sure you're putting out your, like I said, your best, most convincing evidence, because you're trying to convince me or the reader, your audience, of your view. You're passionate about something. All right. So this is my first paragraph that we worked on, adding more recycling to Park Lawn. We talked about keeping it cleaner. There'd be less litter, and those things. So you can see this is my first paragraph. It's a pretty opening. It's a pretty strong paragraph. It's one of my that has some of my most convincing parts to it. Then I come down to my second paragraph. This is I finished it up. If we were to add more recycling to Park Lawn, it would be better for our environment. By recycling, we are reusing items that might otherwise be put in a dump. If we as a community would recycle more of our garbage, less trash would end up in our local lakes and rivers. And see here, I kind of made it personal. Talk about somebody, who's my audience that really loves our lakes and rivers. That might be important to them. So talking about our local community and our local waterways. We would use less of our natural resources if the paper and plastics were to be reused again. And our society has a terrible habit of just throwing away garbage instead of trying to recycle or repurpose our waste. So now we're going to work on our third bit of information, our third great piece of evidence. And I'm thinking as I got started, by recycling more of our garbage at Park Lawn, we can set a better example of how to be, or we can set an example of how to be better stewards of our world. And I'm going to pause here for a minute on my writing because I'm thinking, that is really good, but I think it might need to be moved up to this section, between these two paragraphs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this one because I think that works well. And then I will move it here. And I think I'm going to use it there instead because I think it flows in with a tab to make my indent. I think it flows in really good here. And then it'll transition really good with my third paragraph. So I'll just get rid of this one because I just copied and pasted and put that one up there. And I think it will flow better because I think like I was saying, this will make my audience maybe care a little more because I'm talking about recycling and then how maybe we can be better stewards of, be an example. And then this is what it would mean for the environment. So I think that here, these paragraphs would flow a little better together. So I just kind of revised and edited as I went. I can say, by recycling more of our garbage at Park Lawn, we can set an example of how to be better stewards of our world. Okay. So I can say something like, we only have one planet and we need to take much better care of it than we do. Okay. That's a pretty good bullet to go with my box of recycling garbage at Parkland, we can be better example, better, or be, and we can set an example of how to be better stewards of our world. Um, one thing I can say, it does not take a lot of time or effort to pick up garbage off the street or playground, not playground, playground, and recycle. Okay, I'll go back and I might revise or edit that, but I've changed up a little bit because this will flow much neater than it was earlier, the way I had it. So, as you are going through, you need to make sure that you're reading each piece, read over each section of your uh, persuasive essay, and say, okay, how is my reader going to care? Am I giving enough points? Am I giving enough bullets? Am I giving enough supporting evidence to make my audience care? Because that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to make me one member of the audience. It could be your family or your guardian or whoever is reading your work to really care. So you're trying to persuade. You're trying to make somebody believe because you're passionate about your project, your topic. Okay. So as we're doing that, continue to make your boxes and bullets. If you need to go back and brainstorm again, you get your sentences in, and it just doesn't sound right, or it just doesn't sound like it's strong enough. You can always redo it. That's what I did. I had this paragraph here. I had that paragraph up, but after going back and writing, I'm like, oh, I think moving those paragraphs around makes more sense. It makes my essay seem that much stronger. Okay. So again, some of you are you need to make sure you're writing complete sentences out. You're using capitalized letters. You're using question marks when appropriate, or exclamation points. So you make sure you're still doing that. I've read through these and you're doing super work. You're being very creative. So continue to do that. If you have any questions or concerns, just shoot me an email or anything through Seesaw and I'll get back to you. All right. You guys continue to work hard.